Hi everybody, I'm KHOU 11 meteorologist Pat Cavlin coming to you from Houston, Texas with a look at your tropical update. It is Sunday, September 4th, 2022. After a really quiet August, things are certainly off to a more active start this month. We've got 3 players on the board right now. We've got a tropical wave that just moved off the west coast of Africa, and then 2 named storms, both of which formed in the first 2 days of September. We've got Tropical Storm Earl here just to the north of the Greater Antilles, and then Hurricane Danielle out here in the middle of the North Atlantic. So on the satellite, you can actually pick out each of these features pretty clearly. So there's Tropical Storm Earl, a lot of good thunderstorm development in there, looks pretty healthy on satellite. There's Danielle all the way towards the top of the screen. You can actually make out the eye wall all the way from this zoomed out perspective. And there's the tropical wave that just moved off the west coast of Africa. We're going to start with that first. Not expected to develop in the next 48 hours, but within the next 5 days, so later on in the week, there's a low-end chance that this tropical wave could turn into something. If that happens, that'll be the point that we start to keep an eye on it. Let's talk about our named systems. First, we'll start with Hurricane Danielle. Been up and down in intensity. Bottom line, though, this is not going to be a threat to any interests here in the United States. In fact, it'll make a brush with Portugal by several hundred miles as we get into the middle of the week. Maintains Category 1 hurricane strength before it comes extratropical, tapping into some of those colder North Atlantic waters later on in the week. This is the system that we'll probably keep a bit of a closer eye on for, not because it's going to impact the United States, but just because it will make a close brush with Bermuda as we get into the middle and the end of the week. It could also become our first major hurricane of the Atlantic season as a Category 3 storm, packing winds sustained at 120 miles per hour. But again, we're about 1,000 miles away from any U.S. impact, so we're not expecting anything other than maybe some high surf out towards the Carolinas. So September's been very active so far. Why was August so quiet? Well, we had plenty of warm water, so that wasn't it. The dry air really wasn't a huge issue. We had the pretty typical levels of what you would expect to see in August. So with those 2 ingredients crossed off the list, that leaves us with one more, wind shear. And we had quite a bit of it extending all the way from Europe across the middle of the Atlantic into the Caribbean and the Gulf, and that really just shut things down. So any tropical waves that came off Africa wouldn't really make it past the midpoint here before getting shredded apart. We still do have some wind shear, and so it'll be interesting to see how these waves interact with it. And we have seen it actually take a toll on Earl. It's really kept Earl as a weak storm over the last few days, but it is forecast to strengthen once it moves past some of this wind shear later on in the week. So for you at home, here are the 3 things that you got to remember now as we move past the midpoint of hurricane season. We've still got 87 days left to go. The season doesn't end until November 30th. And regardless of how active or quiet the basin is, the Atlantic, the Caribbean, the Gulf, it only takes one storm. We saw that with Hurricane Andrew back in the 90s in South Florida. It was a late season storm. It was the first storm of the year. Remember, it's an A name, Andrew, and it didn't happen until late August. So the entire season up to that point was dead quiet. And then you have this big Category 5 hurricane that wiped out neighborhoods in South Florida. So it only takes one storm. So while things are quiet, now is the time to stay vigilant and to prepare. And we are less than a week away from the peak of the season. We're technically past the midpoint, but this is really the time of the year when things start to pick up in frequency. So we are seeing that right now. Again, no threats to land at this point with any of the systems that I just showed you. But as we get closer, it's just a good reminder that we still got a long way to go. Things typically stay active at least through October. So stay with us on social media, online and on TV. If you have any questions or comments, you can always drop us a line on social media. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to stay safe and stay vigilant.